Hello, hello. My name is Lori Allred, and I will be your instructor for the Step It Up quilted shoe class at So Simply Stitch this year. And are you guys so excited? I'm so excited, not only for this class, but to go to So Simply Stitch. It's one of my favorite. I think it's the 7th time I've been, so I'm excited for you guys. So you may have seen my samples, and I thought I'd get creative with the shoelaces. I was going to put them on my feet and show them off, but it's real hard to get a good video with my whole body. So here you go. But one of the things I decided to do when I was assembling them was to flip my inside of my shoes, which is black. I don't know if you can see that. I flipped the tongue upside down so the black part showed on the tongue, and the regular same white is on the opposite side. So you can have a lot of fun with this. So you could do one part of your shoe. You could just get creative. I don't want to feel limited, but we're going to go over the basics of your prep before you come to Vernal, because this class should be like an all-day class. So the prep, don't stress, super easy. I want you to be able to come back to this video as often as you need. I'll try and put some time marks in it in the description so it's easy to find where you left off. So let's get started. You guys ready? Okay, first of all, let's talk about supplies. Now, on the supply list, of course, we have things like 2 fat quarters. So you'll need a front and a back. Let me grab a couple examples. I had a lot of fun with Rifle Paper Company's fabric because I think they'd make fabulous shoes. So on the original shoes here that I did, I used this fabric as for one side, and the complementary fabric in white on the other side. So you can have a lot of fun. It's just a fat quarter. How many? We all have fat quarters, right, on our wall? So that'll be great. Let's throw those over there. We don't need them. Here's some others I'm going to be working on for some friends and family. I love this print. And then I thought this one was gorgeous because it was just a bigger version of the pink. Don't need those. Okay, and then my mom requested navy blue shoes. So I'm not sure if we're gonna go with this side or this side for the outside of the shoes. So you can see how creative you can get. I've seen some beautiful shoes done in Tula Pink, so you can have a lot of fun with this. So grab 3. You'll need 3 pieces of fabric. You'll need the front of your shoes and the back of your shoes, as well as the trim that goes around the shoes. So the front, the top side, inside, and then of course the trim that'll go around here. We won't use a whole fat quarter for the trim, but we will be cutting it on the bias. So just grab a fat quarter. So just for example's sake, let's say I've got my fabric for another pair of shoes I'm going to be doing. So I've got my front and my back. They're very similar. Inside a shoe, probably outside a shoe, because I love that touchy yellow. And then I'm going to need a green to go for the trim. So let's grab a cute green. Maybe this will work. Oh yeah, that'll be great. So green for the trim. Okay, so we won't need to worry about that right this second. The other thing you're going to need to do is I will send you a link to the patterns. The patterns are free. You will need to download. The first pattern listed on the link is the 3-in-1 shoe. The 3-in-1 shoe means that it comes in 3 different styles. You can tell from the 3 different lines. This would be a low cut shoe, your regular shoe, and then this high top shoe. Now it's not like a real high top, it just goes up a little higher. I didn't think I'd like that, but after I saw a couple students doing it, I'm in love, and that's what I'm going to be doing on my next pair of shoes, is that outer line. These shoes here were done on the, here's a great example, it's already cut out. They were done on that second line. So you're going to go ahead and print those out. Now, this is key. You need to make sure you print not fit to page, but actual size. And I know this personally, painstakingly do I know this. When I took a class to learn how to do this, sadly the instructor had printed the patterns for us and didn't realize that her printer at the quilt shop had defaulted to fit to page. So I got my entire shoe ready to go, and guess what? This shoe did not fit on this base. It was too small. And trust me, I tried and tried. I tried for days to get this to fit. Couldn't figure out. I'm thinking, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And pretty soon I get an email from the teacher saying, oops, I printed the fit to page. And even that 1/4 inch slight difference made a huge difference. So Hallelujah. I recut a new one, had it assembled in no time at all in the right size. So the best way to make sure that you've got it in actual size is once you've printed it, of course, like every quilt pattern, they give you a key. Now, 4 inches versus 10 centimeters is going to be slightly off, like a 1/16 of an inch off on the 4 inches. So I highly recommend you do the centimeters. Just flip your ruler over and measure the centimeters. It should hit right at 10, no problem. Don't freak out if you do it in inches and it's just slightly too small, like barely. Indescribable. And of course, sadly, not all rulers are created the same, but as close as you can. Just make sure you haven't hit fit to page. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, I guess you could reach out to me. I'd be happy to print it for you and drop it in the mail, but let me know as soon as possible. Otherwise, have a friend or a family member help you out. So these are also in European size, and I'll give you a conversion chart for the correct sizes. I printed out 42 here, which is going to be the wrong size. I'll be right back. Okay, that was just a little bit of error on my part. Be sure you print the right size. For some reason in my head I had that I was a 42, I'm now I'm 41. And European size, that's a whole shoe size difference. So I went and printed a new one out, even though my example here, you'll have 3 pages it'll print. You'll have a right and a left side of the shoe, and then you'll have the tongue listed. It will be a page. So you'll need to print all those out. I recommend, if you can, print them out on cardstock. Not absolutely necessary, but I do love the weight the cardstock gives me, because we'll be tracing this and using this to place our stitching marks as well. So I went ahead and printed mine on, this is the only color cardstock I had was pink, so who cares? And remember, I'm doing the high top, so I cut it out on the outside edge. And then you'll notice it says tape to other side right there. And mine goes out a little bit further because it's a high top. You just need to tape it right there. So you'll have a dart there. That's okay. And you'll be tracing that and cutting it just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this real quick. Make sure it's lined up. I like to tape across just to make sure I don't miss that. Then I'm going to tape on the back just to keep it together, and I can reuse this over and over. So just for example's sake, I printed a new one. Oh, well, I haven't done this. I haven't done the high top yet. That's what I'll be working on. I'll have it done to show you in class. So you'll have that, and then you'll have the tongue piece. The next thing you're going to need after you've printed and cut this out and gotten it ready, set it aside. The next thing you're going to need, I mentioned your fat quarters, so you have those, but you're also going to need to pull out your foam that I listed. So on the requirements, it says a 20 by 24 inch foam piece of either Annie's So Soft and Stable, which I had some around here somewhere. I just picked up some Pellon. It's just called Flex. Oh, that's printed weird. Flex foam. That's why I couldn't read. Flex foam. I believe it's style number 77. Yeah, FF77 Flex Foam. You can pick it up at Joann's. And it looks like, oh, here it is. Just looks like this. It's not as wide as the Annie's Soft and Stable, but it's the same concept. The only catch is this isn't fusible, so it's a little tricky. So we are going to back our fabric just to give it that extra reinforcement. We're going to back it with a double fuse mid-weight interfacing, and I listed Pellon number 82 two-sided fusible decor bond. So this is fusible on both sides, which is hunky-dory because we're going to be making a sandwich out of it. So I'm going to show you how the sandwich works. I'm not going to iron, I'm just going to show you for the example. You're going to take your 2 fat quarters. So it doesn't matter which ones you do first. So lay the first one down, and I will be providing written instructions as well, so you can check off each one as you go. You're going to lay it face down, so wrong side up. You'll take one of your fusible interfacing pieces, place it down on your fabric. I cut it just to fat quarter size. It's okay if it's a little too small. Just put that down. Then we're going to take our foam, and then another piece of the fusible, This is a lot. I know that. The problem is with the double-sided fuse, you got to at least adhere it to something. So if you can't iron through all of that, at least iron your foam, a piece of fusible with your fabric. Otherwise, if you iron just this down on top of the fusible, it's going to iron to your ironing board. I don't know that because I've never done that. Anyway, so make that sandwich. So you're going to create a sandwich. So we have, remember, wrong side up, a piece of fusible interfacing, our foam, another double fuse, and our piece. So that makes your sandwich. And so you're going to want to make sure you go ahead and press that really nice and good. If you have a heat press, I recommend it. Otherwise, just give it some good hot heat. Of course, Pellon always gives you their suggestions on sandwich stabilizer between two wrong sides of fabric. Set the iron at wool steam setting. Cover with damp press cloth. Do your thing. Hopefully you've all done this before, but if not, this does have some instructions on it. So we'll pass those aside. We'll heat those together. You should have a full piece all ready to go, stuck together. Put that on my ironing board so I can prep that. The next step you're going to want to do with your, so here's one that's complete even to the past the next step. So once you have your sandwich together, now this one I didn't have two-sided fusible interfacing, so I tried pinning it and holding it, and this happens on occasion. You know, you've got one piece longer than the other, and let's see, over here the same thing happened. Oh, a little bit of my foam sticking out here. It's okay, because you still have plenty of leftovers. These are all the leftovers from that first pair of shoes I wanted to show you. So you have plenty of space to fudge your pattern onto, so don't worry about that. So what I recommend you do is you can go ahead and take your piece that you've already fused together, draw a diagonal line through it. Like, I don't even think you can see it on here. It's a little bit lost in the design. I just took one of those friction pens, drew a diagonal line so that then I could start sewing on the diagonal, which I did originally with this fabric. And I did white thread on this side and black thread on this side and just kept sewing. You can do, I decided to get a little adventurous with this one and do kind of a grid pattern. So I just did lines this way, 1 inch mark, and lines this way. I'm going to hit it with an iron to get those lines to go away, and then it's ready to cut out. But I'm okay to do that after the fact. You're going to take your fabric. Let's go ahead and push this out just a little bit. Okay, you're going to take your pattern. And they do on the pattern that you print give you a little key example of how to lay this out. It's on this page. So right here, they've given you a key on how to place it because you need to flip the shoe and trace it the opposite way. So I recommend, since you're going to be cutting along this edge, I like a fine point Sharpie. Directional fabric does get a little tricky. I recommend, if you can, to pick something non-directional. I know that I'm tempting fate. I may love or hate this with the words on it, but I love that these, and I'm not sure which side's going to be my inside and which side's going to be my outside, because I love that it was this European fabric. It had all these places I've been to. So let's do it on this side just because it's still just as busy. So trace this with your Sharpie and make sure there is a little, what do they call this, dart. Make sure you cut that out and trace it. It's key to lining it up on the sole. So go ahead and trace that, and the best you can. It's a little hard once I've quilted it. Now someone asked if they can use their long arm to quilt this. Like, if you can get all of those layers of fabric that are needed in there to quilt it and on your machine, by all means, I encourage you to do that. I find I didn't want to hassle with figuring that out, so I just did it on my domestic machine. And honestly, the quilting's kind of an afterthought once you get your shoes assembled. So, okay, once I've finished that, I'll work on it here in a minute. You're going to take your pattern, so I'm looking at the words. I'm going to flip it the opposite way so I can't see the words and trace that. Then with the tongue, we're going to trace one this direction. It doesn't really matter, but I like to flip it because it does say flip to left side. So do one, words facing up, then flip it, words facing down. And in fact, I have 2 pattern pieces, so I could technically get away with it, that are the same size. So I could get away with doing this to trace them, and you can see all my leftover. You're not going to really need any of the scraps, but I'm going to ask you to bring all your leftover scraps with you just in case. I don't know that we would do anything with it, but never hurts, right? Especially on your trim fabric, and we'll show you that. So once you've gotten that, you should cut it out. You'll have your pieces ready to go, and then the next step is going to be the trim. So I'm going to actually work on this. I'll be right back, and it'll be easier to show you the next step. Okay, I filmed this section earlier, but I didn't like the way it turned out. I also noticed filming on an angle made it look like one of my Oz was considerably smaller than the other one, and that drove me crazy. So they're somewhat symmetrical, right? Anyway, let's talk about the trim on the shoes. I wanted to explain it in a way that was much more clear than the one I did before. So first of all, you're going to take your fat quarter that you're using for the trim fabric. So you have your inside, outside, and trim fabric, and you're going to be cutting it on the bias. Now, for those of you who know what that means, great. For those of you who don't, let me explain really quickly. So fabric has a bias, meaning it will stretch. So you'll notice on this finished edge, where it's the end of the fabric, I don't have any stretch. And the problem with if we cut straight strips, we're trying to go around a curve of the shoe. It's not going to work very well. So cutting out your trim, or that we're going to be doing, or strips on the bias, is going to help. So just to show you an example, so I showed you how here I don't get any stretch, but on the bias, when you go from corner to corner, I get a lot of stretch in there, right? Same with if I go the opposite way. So cutting your fabric on a 45-degree angle will give you that stretch in the strip. So, and that's an important part of the process. The other thing, and earlier on when I sent the email before, I said that you'd need a 1/2-inch bias tape maker, which I did have one. It's yellow. You don't want the 1/2 inch. You want the 3/4 inch. It won't work. It's way too small. In fact, I did it yesterday. That's what it turned out like. Bias tape, it folds in on itself. This would be such a pain to get around that edge. That extra width, that 3/4, is going to make it a lot easier. You could even go a little bit more and do a 1 inch, but then you're going to have some movement in that edging that maybe is going to be excess you don't need. So I believe the 3/4 inch, this is a clover one, is red. So, but again, this is not my preferred way to do the binding or the trim on your shoes. So I'm going to show you both ways, and you can decide, and I've listed them both on the instructions. Option 1 is the one I like. Option 2 is the way that I was originally taught. So once you've cut your strips, so I've done one so far, you're going to cut these at 1.5 inches, and I believe. So, and then you're going to at least cut, you want to get at least 4. I said 5. So I said, we're going to be cutting these at 1.5 inches. And if at any point I told you a different measurement than 1.5 inches, it is incorrect. 1.5 inches is what you want, whether you're doing it my preferred way or the bias tape way. So you're going to want to make sure you go all the way down. Again, you really only need 4 strips, but I'm telling you 5 just so you have a little extra in case you mess up or you want to. So there you go. If you have your bias tape maker, you're going to feed that in, and it's going to look like this when you're done. You're going to have both edges, you're going to press that down. So this is the bias tape way. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and fold that in half and press it if you want. You don't necessarily need to do that. But what you're going to be doing is we're going to add the trim along the outside edge of the shoe, not the bottom of the shoe. This is where it attaches to the sole. So we just need it along here, and on the tongues, I'm trying to see if I put a tongue somewhere. There's one. You're going to line it all the way around, but not along the bottom. So my other shoe pair, to give you the idea, see again, all the way around, not the bottom. And the same, we've got all the way around the outside of the shoe, not along the bottom edge. You got that? Not along the bottom edge. Okay. So the bias tape way is you're going to take this and basically you're going to fold that over the edge, just like that. So you have the same amount on both sides, and you're going to sew, being sure to catch that edge on both sides so we keep that down. This is where your stiletto or the end of your unpicker is going to come in handy, because this is so small to work with under the foot of your sewing machine. You're going to want to carefully, and gluing this actually I found is much easier taking a glue stick, adding a little adhesive there, you could press it like we've done on binding on quilts before will work. So, or you can pin, but I found the pinning was a lot more tedious than the glue. And because it's on the bias, it's going to curve around that edge really nicely as we sew it. And the first set of shoes we did the trim in class. Super stressful because I was anxious and the instructor was looking over my shoulder, and I just hated the way it turned out. It just looked sloppy. And I think it was the pressure of having someone watch me. And then even on here, I didn't catch the edge and I didn't go back and fix it because I felt like I had to keep up with the class. So I was really relieved that we could work this into the prep so that you're not doing it in class, because we don't want to bring our machines if we don't have to. So do this at home when you have time and you're patient with yourself, and you can do that. So that's the second option, the bias tape way, is we're going to go around all the way around and stitch that. You can do it any color thread you want. It looks really cute if you want to show the stitching. That is the really cute thing about this method, is you could do a different color of thread so you can see stitching on it. It just gives it a different detail. The same with on the tongue. Of course, I did red on red so you can't tell. But now the preferred way I like to do binding is the quilt binding method. So, and you've done this probably on bags before. You're going to take your strips and you're going to press them in half. So I don't have these. We'll finger press it. No, that's not going to work. But press it in half, and we're going to attach this to the shoe like we would the edge of a quilt. Now, I do my binding different than other people. Sometimes I do it backwards because I don't like to stitch in the ditch. But that's basically what we're going to do. So determine which side is the front of your shoe. Decide if it's going to be, like in my case, these shoes, I had to decide if I wanted the black or the white. Determine the front of your shoe. You're going to stitch this binding folded in half to the front of the shoe, just like that. You're going to go along and do that 1/4 inch all the way around. It's going to look kind of sloppy, but that's okay. Keep doing that all the way around, and then we're going to fold that over, and you're going to stitch in the ditch. So basically, it's just like a quilt. We're going to stitch that down, and then we're going to fold it over. I suggest pressing it. You can even glue it if you want. And then you're going to stitch in the ditch, making sure to catch that back edge. And it's hard for me to hold it and not show it done, but this is what it looks like. Voila, when it's done. Look how beautiful that looks. I just thought, oh, that looks professional. So in the inside, you can see it's not perfect, but it does the job. Right? But that edge, look how beautiful. It's all consistent all the way around the tongue too. It looks gorgeous on both shoes. So I don't have any sloppy edges. I just prefer this. I thought this finished off so much prettier. So this is option 1. So if you want to do the quilt binding, I do outline that in the instructions. Both pieces are cut at 1.5 inches. And then you're going to fold that over. You can also, if you want it to be a little bit thicker of a trim, you have that option. You can go down instead of that. This is probably shorter than 1/4 inch, as you can tell. But I also pulled that as much as I could to get that thinner, more firm. And stitching in the ditch just made it look so much prettier. So I actually did white thread on the front and red thread on the bobbin. So there you go. I wanted to explain that, so it made so much more sense than the first time I filmed. So happy adding your trim. But I want to make sure you come to class with all of your trim already done on your shoe. This is crucial because I don't need you to bring your sewing machine to class at all. Yay! Yay! Because everybody gets tired of hauling their machines around, right? Okay. So on the instructions, you're going to, and I'm going to send you prep instructions that I break it down. Prepping your pattern, it talks about printing it, prepping the shoe fabric and how to go ahead and make that sandwich and then quilt it. And then I give you the shoe trim options, both options, the quilt binding method and the bias tape method. So if you're going to go ahead and follow what I've learned that's easier and not do the bias tape, you do not need to purchase that 1/2 inch bias tape maker. That is optional. So you'll want to probably use the stiletto or the end of your unpicker to help you feed that through. But like I said, the quilt binding method works much faster. Okay, so that's what you need to have prepped and come to class. I will be providing all of the tools that you will need to, what we'll do is we'll punch holes. And you can do this part at home if you have a small punch. You'll see the pattern has these holes. If you want to punch those holes ahead of time, by all means you can. I used a larger punch on here. I actually have an old, I don't even remember what they call this. Do you guys remember this? It punches holes and sets eyelets like a dream. I don't even remember what it's called. They should put the name on it. But it works awesome. But I will have other options. I'll have these hole punchers that are made for leather work available in class. Excuse me. And then we will also be adding our eyelets. I'll provide you all eyelets and the backing that you need to stabilize those eyelets for that. I'll also be providing you with a wax thread to help you stitch onto the base in class. And then we will work on, we're gonna just sit around and work on assembling these together. Once you do your first pair, you will be amazed at how much fun these are to do. You're gonna wanna make them for everybody. So that leads me to the sole of the class. Now these soles are made by a company called Sneaker Kit. You can purchase these, and I will list some resources of where you can find them. Tandy Leather, Chicago School of Shoemaking, a place out of Texas that's offered us a coupon discount on the soles. Now to purchase them through most places, these retail for $60. They come in white, black, and kind of a terracotta color. And it looks great on any of the shoes. I'm partial to the white. I am going to purchase some black because I think black would be fun with some of my fabrics. And the best thing about this, these shoes hold up really well. But if they get to the point where they just look like crap, guess what? These soles are going to outlive this probably the longest. And since we've just stitched this on, you can technically pull this off and reuse the soles. How cool is that? Trust me, I tried pulling apart some tennis shoes from Walmart. That didn't work out well. So they do come with an insert. They look like that on the inside. The soles come with this and this. So, and these come out of the Netherlands. So I am actually working with them right now to see if I can get us wholesale pricing on these soles, so you don't have to purchase them for $60. So hold off getting your soles if you can. I hope to get an answer within the next couple of weeks, and then we will get those. If you would like to purchase extras for, say you want to make matching shoes for you and your daughter, they do have children's sizes as well. But communication with them is slow. But hopefully that will work out, because although I love making these shoes, I love a good deal. So if I can save money, we're looking at approximately about $35 as opposed to $60. So hopefully I can get that to work out for us all. If not, I was still pleasantly pleased with this end product. And I figure, you know, most days a custom pair of shoes is going to run you a lot more than $60. So please feel free to email me if you have any other questions. If I didn't cover something, I'll shoot a quick video and send it out to everybody as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all in March. Get your shoes prepped. Let me know if you have any questions.